It's time for the Miller's Edge with four-time SEC champion and two-time national champion Christian Miller.
Once again with Christian Miller taking him down.
Here's college football playoff national champion Christian Miller on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC.
And welcome into this Friday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, Free for All Friday edition. That is Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Hope you guys are doing well, man. It's about that time, Chase, about the weekend, and we're fired up, man. Not just for that, but because we got another practice to break down. Day 4 of spring ball is officially in the books yet again. Plus, today we get to hear from my side of things, Chase, the defense, man. I'm fired up. We will hear from Kane Wommack live, right? We'll listen to him probably in a few minutes or so. We'll get his press conference coming off the practice field, and then we'll also get to hear from several defensive guys later in the show, as well as they will speak to the media. We'll just kind of go off of, you know, the videos that are uploaded because, again, they're live happening right now, and we are currently doing the show. So maybe in the future we'll set something up where we can actually have some folks over there and somehow stream it directly to us live. I think we can figure that out, and hopefully we can do that moving forward. But for now, we will roll with what we got and when they roll in, and I'm excited to do so. Again, we'll talk some defense here on the show. Heard a lot from the offensive side of things yesterday, and definitely a lot coming out of that press conference from Ryan Grubb, Chase, and we broke it down a lot yesterday, but I'm sure people are still talking a little bit about what was said yesterday. So we'll dive into that conversation if you guys want to. It is a free-for-all Friday. No official guests lined up. We'll see who kind of maybe pops in here. I know I had a couple people mention that they might jump on here, but would love to get you guys in on the conversation. 205-342-9904 is the number to the program. We'd love to get you guys on here and share y'all's thoughts with anything that you've kind of noticed from spring ball so far. Again, officially 4 days in. This is the last day for this week. The players will go on spring break, have a little bit of a down week, at least in terms of practices and how that goes next week. But we'll just kind of recap what's been going on. We'll probably get some guests on here. We'll keep you guys entertained while the players are out. I don't know, Chase. I don't know, man. Nowadays, these guys got some bread, Chase. Listen, these spring break trips have really upgraded since I was in school. You know, I used to go back home and go fishing, you know, on the lake back home and hang out with some high school friends. Maybe go down to, I don't know, Orange Beach and literally just go to the beach, like family type stuff. Nowadays, these brothers, they're taking NFL trips. I done seen dudes out the country on spring break, Chase, down in Miami. The good news is a lot of them, dude, they take it serious, and I've seen them actually training and doing some fun stuff. That's the best way to do it. If I ever gave any advice, even though I didn't even really do it like that, I kind of just went back to my roots. But I always felt that's the best way to do it. Go on vacation because it is important to, you know, get your mind off of football. Listen, you're going to have plenty of time to think about football. And I'm not saying completely get rid of football out of your mind, because hear me out. Go on vacation. That way you can kind of get away for a little bit. But while you're on vacation, take a few minutes a day. When I say few, I'm talking probably 30 minutes. Get in that playbook, right? This past week of spring ball, that first week, you know, you got 2 or 3 days in pads and then some shells practices. You know, it's a lot of intro stuff. It's really a lot of install, breaking down the offense, the defense, laying the foundation before you really get into the nitty gritty. So go back and you know, take a look over the install, because that was, you know, the most important thing from this week. But then also train a little bit, you know, make sure you get a few good workouts in, if not almost every day, because the last thing you want to do is, as a player, go on spring break, think you're just a regular college student, you're out there drinking alcohol, partying. It might be fun in the moment, but when you come back and spring ball kicks back off, there's not another fourth quarter or winter conditioning program to get back into to get you back in shape, Chase. You got to jump right into it. So, and I'm sure these guys have their heads on straight. I think a lot of guys do it the right way. But anyway, that would be my advice to anybody that is taking part in spring break, and we'll have to come back and hit the ground running with spring ball, man. Make sure you guys take care of your bodies, work out a little bit, go to the beach, man, do some drills. Sand is really good to get some drill work in, and I'm sure they already got all that planned. I'm just being the old head, just offering advice that nobody asked for. Hey, if you guys haven't, man, check us out on the streams, again, at the Miller's Edge on YouTube and on X, and also on Facebook, Tide 100.9. You guys, it's like over 50,000 followers there. And I know you guys love Facebook, so you can always check us out there. And plus, if you guys are tuning into the stream, you see a new face on the show, man. It's the same voice you hear every day, pretty much, but a new face. We got our guy Chase, man, Chase Brumfield, who is, you know, normally behind the glass, right? He's producing the show and doing all the hard work, steering the ship. to help us put on the show. But now you guys get to see Chase. So when he does chime in and offer his basketball breakdowns, which he had a hell of a women's basketball breakdown. Unfortunately, we were riding on some favor and it didn't go that way. Texas really did their thing. But I'm excited, man. We got our guy Chase. Chase, tell him what's up, man.
It's good to see everybody. Happy Friday. Yeah, not too happy about the Alabama. We're just going to leave it at that. But how are you, Christian?
Man, I can't complain, man. I'm better now. We got Chase on camera, man. Hopefully Chase might have to get comfortable being on camera, man. I know it's a little new. It's the first day they got a little camera in studio. Now, I must say, they need to take. I think we're like sold out on these slots, man. They need to get some little bit better webcams for you, Chase. You're a little grainy over there, and maybe I can help them out. Choose another one. It works for now, though. We got you, but are you looking like you got some dust on the screen there? It ain't your fault, though. We'll have to get that camera cleaned up a little bit, but no, you look good, man. I'm glad to have you on here. So everybody in the streams and in the chat, this is our guy Chase, who you hear from every day, but now you got him on screen. He'll be hanging out with us, doing the same thing, producing the show, but chiming in a little bit. That said, we will hear from Kane Wommack coming up here shortly, and also some of these players. I don't know who's going to speak defensively. Yesterday, we did get some offense interviews. We obviously heard from Ryan Grill. We discussed that one at length. But today, we will run it back with those offensive interviews. Ryan Coleman-Williams, I might add. I think I messed that up earlier. I apologize. Michael Carroll, and there might have been another couple guys, but I know those two guys for sure spoke to the media. I've seen those videos. We'll probably circle back, listen to those on this Free-for-All Friday. We'll definitely talk defense. That's going to be the main focus. Kane Wommack is known to really give a lot of information. He gives a lot of great detail in his answers. I'm hoping we got a couple good questions with Ryan Grubb. I would say hope we get some good technical questions on the defensive side of things, talking about maybe some of that position versatility that we heard Kalen DeBoer talk about, most specifically at the bandit/wolf positions. I think I have a good idea on kind of the direction they're going, but I would love to hear him say it, come directly from the horse's mouth. Maybe talk about that linebacker position, what he's seen so far to 1 week. A lot of young guys trying to step up. The transfer in Caleb Woodson put on some weight, man. He looks solid. I mean, you're talking about a 6'3", 6'4" guy, roughly 240, man. I mean, he looks the part. How has he been the part, according to Kane Wommack? I know Coach DeBoer had a lot of high praise for him in his leadership thus far, so that's big. And really, his thoughts on some of these transfers, man. I'm intrigued, Chase. We got a little snapshot at this new look defensive line. Looked like it had a grouping of Terrence Green at nose, Fogg at the 3 technique. Remember, London Simmons is out right now with injury. I'd probably just swap those guys once he comes back. And then, not to say Fogg is not going to play, but we just know London Simmons was really impressive last year. And then it looked like they had Devin Tompkins out at what we would assume would be the bandit spot or just that other edge spot. And then I'm assuming it was Jean St. Pierre. Looking at that grouping, I mean, that's definitely a big group up front. You got a big end, a bigger athletic nose, and Terrence Green, 6'5", 320. You got Fogg in a true 3 technique role that I think him and London Simmons, those guys will actually benefit from and really maximize their skill set. They're better fit to play that position more so than a true nose where they've been at. So I want those questions answered, right? Like, is that something you guys are doing? Because in my opinion, when you look at the personnel, that would make sense. Lean a little bit more into some of these traditional 4-man fronts, kick some of those guys that played nose last year to a true 3 technique, right? Where they naturally should be playing. And then with the true 4-man fronts, you can get back to really seeing, not that they didn't do it last year, but if you lean a little bit heavily in that direction, you can see the emergence of maybe getting a little bit more of an athletic profile in there if you need be, right? Like Yanze, Justin Hill / Zulu, right? Both on the edges. Similar to what we used to do, but with the emergence of a lot of odd fronts, 3-man fronts in the past couple years, things have changed up a little bit, but with the personnel that we have, I definitely could see a return of a lot more true 4-man fronts, getting those guys, getting those athletic guys on the edge. If you need more, mass up front, you got some position versatility with a guy maybe like Devin Tompkins that can sit up on that edge and really bolster it, right? Give you a firm edge if you're trying to, you're playing a team like Missouri, running a lot of wide zone. That's an example I could give you guys, right? Like those personnel groupings and packages, that's what it's for, right? You play a team like Missouri, a lot of wide zone, they're running the football. You get a bigger bandit in there, right? He can really hold down that edge. You're playing a team with, Marcel Reed at quarterback, who's a hell of an athlete. You want a little bit more speed on the edge. Now you're working with more of a nickel rabbits package, right? Justin Hill, Zulu, Yanze Pierre, those guys out there. That's the type of versatility and flexibility that a lot of defensive coordinators prefer to have. It helps you prepare for any look or scheme you might be facing offensively. And it definitely can just help you out overall, defend what you might be seeing in today's college football, which is a whole bunch of different looks. So that being said, we got to hit a timeout to stay on schedule. When we come back, we'll search up this Kane Wommack press conference. Hopefully it's already rolling, and we'll hear from him, and then we'll listen to it together. We'll discuss it. We'll break it down, and then we'll hopefully talk with you guys on this free-for-all Friday edition of the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Quick timeout. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started. We'll be right back.
The Tuscaloosa Thread News Update is brought to you by Tuscaloosa Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
All right, good deal. Dang, man, we got Chase on here now. Now Chase is like Chase is official now, man. You know what's always funny when, like, I'm sure our listeners probably think this too. You always imagine a face with a name, especially like with radio, especially, right? Like I did it with our callers before I really knew or met our callers. When we do our live shows, you always had this face in your mind. Then it's cool when you actually see him. You're like, wait, he looks totally different than I envisioned. Or, okay, he kind of looks like what I was thinking a little bit. So that's funny, man. That's funny. Good stuff. Who we got? We got Arthur. What's up, man? Happy Friday. BJ, what's going on? Roll Tide. Yeah, Chase, if you want, like, during breaks or something, you can always do whatever you need to do, brother. Jake, what's up? Been sitting on this thought since Lloyd was announced as a starter. I see the method to the madness. Maybe instead of musical chairs like last year, get the line you want and let them gel all spring and fall camp. Listen, if you guys want to retouch on that, I know we talked about it at length yesterday, but I'll circle back to that because it was a big point, and I know I put out my thoughts on it. Just a lot of people were asking me about it, so I just gave my thoughts again, not to be critical, not to be anything other than just sharing what I thought about it. That said, listen, if you're trying to pull, you guys know me. I look at all these perspectives, man. That's why Adam said, hey, I might make a great lawyer, man. Maybe I'll work for him one day. But yes, from that perspective, if you're talking about, man, last year we didn't have stability. We didn't have it last year. This year, maybe they're trying to get the ball rolling early and say, hey, we're going to try to if we know we feel really good about this guy, we want to go ahead and tell him, hey, we're instilling this confidence in you. You're our guy. We're going to rep it each and every day. We trust that you're going to be the guy, and we're just going to get better together. I totally understand that. And I mentioned that yesterday. Like that, from that standpoint, when you do look at it in the sense of, hey, man, we're trying to find the 5 best guys. We feel really good about this guy. He's one of our 5. We want him like thinking like that right now. You're the guy. Each and every day you need to be working like it. I get that. And, I made sure I pointed that. I don't know if I pointed that out specifically in the clip I posted, but I talked about it on the show. However, while I agree with that point, there's always a way to do it. And personally, again, it doesn't matter. I'm not Ryan Grubb. I'm not the coordinator. I'll just get paid to talk. I'm not making decisions. Personally, and I think a lot of people agree, especially a lot of football people, you don't have to necessarily come out and do that publicly, right? Because when you do that publicly, what does that mean? The rest of the guys hear that. Whether they say they're on social media, whether they say they listen or read news or not, they're going to hear it, right? We live in this social media day and age. Like, it's all over the place. I mean, think about all the articles. I'm even posting content. I mean, everybody, Jackson Lloyd, starting left tackle. He's the guy. And then you go hear that. I'm just saying, as a player, I just don't know if that was the best way to go about it, right? I mean, he could have thought that. He could literally know in the back of his head, that's the guy. He could even tailor practice like that. Jackson Lloyd's going to get all these first team reps. We know he's going to be the guy. But sometimes it's more so about the method to it. Because in my opinion, like, the other part of it is, make the guys earn it a little bit. I mean, we're talking about a team that low key kind of gave a vibe that there's maybe a little complacency, or that mental edge wasn't just quite there. In my opinion, this goes against trying to establish that. I'm not saying the guy was necessarily given the job. I hadn't been there the offseason. I'm just saying, personally, I don't know how you can really prove to a staff without really putting pads on. And we're talking about the offensive line position. I personally don't know how you really go out there and just separate yourself to the point where they're saying nobody's even close without even putting on full pads. I've never heard of that. Landon, who played offensive line, he said the same thing. I think if you ask any former player, or anybody for that matter, coach, they would agree it's very unheard of, especially given the position. And we're talking about a guy that didn't previously start. Again, not trying to be judgmental. These are just my personal thoughts. Regardless, does that mean it's going to change the outcome of things? I don't think so. Could it affect guys and maybe kind of their work ethic or kind of their outlook on things? Maybe. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But again, it's just something a little bit different. But we'll, just have to kind of see how it goes. And welcome back into this free-for-all Friday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. We're talking some spring football, man. You got Alabama football, day 4, officially in the books. Defensive coaches, well, I should say defensive coordinator Kane Wommack, and several defensive players speaking to the media. I'll keep refreshing. I don't know if Kane Wommack's press conference is posted just yet. I didn't see anybody doing it live. Maybe Chase, if you don't mind, just taking a look real quick as I talk. We got plenty to talk about in the meantime. I don't see it posted just yet. And you guys know the drill. I know Dwight and a lot of our listeners, man, you guys are like little, what are they, like administrators, man. You guys are on the hunt for it and you just tag us in it. So I appreciate you guys. So if you guys want to take on a little task, man, if you guys see that interview posted or as soon as you see it, tag us in it and we'll play it and discuss it after giving it a listen with you guys. Piggybacking off of what we were talking about during the timeout, because this is a good little conversation starter here since it was a big topic yesterday. Jake had asked about, or had mentioned the whole deal with Jackson Lloyd, right? Ryan Grubb spoke to the media and he kind of dropped a little bit of a bombshell. He flat out said Jackson Lloyd is our tackle. At first, when we first saw the tweets before hearing it, I think we all assumed that he was kind of just saying, no, he's a left tackle, maybe saying, hey, like he's the guy right now. But when we actually gave it a listen, it was more so like, he's the guy. There's no question about it. Nobody's close. He is our left tackle. And that's, I think, what kind of brought on all the attention to it. And really, because I know there's a lot of opinions on it. And I shared mine. A lot of people wanted to hear mine. I shared it. And just to kind of summarize, because I'm sure you guys have seen it. You've probably seen the tweet or even the video that we had posted. But just to summarize, I don't know if it was necessary to do it so early, right? If that's your guy, that's your guy. And I just don't know if you needed to really do it publicly. That's basically what I was saying during the break. I don't want to bore you guys with the same old topic, but Jake had a good point. I mean, listen, we dealt with a lot of musical chairs last year, a lot of inconsistency in the lineup. Getting the head start on it this year, I from that standpoint, yeah, I totally see that. My whole argument to that is you can do that and be of that belief as a coach, but you don't have to announce it, right? That way other players are hearing that. Because I'm just telling you, like, I've been in competitions, right? I've battled guys out for the start and stand position, third down packages. Like, I understand that. And I'm just saying, as much of a competitor as I am, if I hear my coach just come out and flat out say, hey, Tim Williams is a guy, right? It's like my sophomore year. I was competing to play some Sam, right? Ryan Anderson, Tim Williams. They knew I was one of the guys in the group that had a little bit more versatility and could drop in coverage. They wanted to see if I was ready, right, to take on that load. So that spring, I was getting a lot of reps with the first team. Even though the writing was on the wall that, yes, Tim Williams and Ryan Anderson were more than likely going to be the starters, I still in my mind was like, hey, man, they're giving me opportunities. They haven't said, Ryan Anderson, Tim Williams, you guys, even though we all knew, they never said that. So it kind of gave us a little bit of not a belief, but we're like, hey, man, we're going to keep working our asses off because we're hoping that maybe we can earn some reps. And sure enough, I did earn some reps, but sure enough, they also ended up being starters. But they didn't announce it, and I think that's part of the reason Coach Saban, I hate not trying to compare, I'm just pointing it out. That's who I played for, is my experience. I think it's part of the reason why he hated depth charts, because he knew how that could affect players on the roster. He knew guys would see stuff like that. It could change their attitudes. That's all we're saying. So, yes, even if you felt he was going to be the starter, nothing wrong with that. That makes total sense. Just kind of hold that a little bit closer to the vest. You know what I mean? And just don't necessarily do it publicly, or at least don't do it with so much conviction, because it was kind of like nobody's close, which kind of Chase, that's almost like throwing gas on the fire. Like, it's one thing like, hey, he's our guy, man. He's started. Don't worry about it. But then you go, nobody's even close. Like, dang. I mean, what does that say? Like, that's almost like either Jackson Lloyd is just blowing them away to this point, or it's kind of like, well, damn. I mean, where's everybody else at? Right. That said, just some updates on how that's looking. Jackson Lloyd at left tackle. We talked about Michael Carroll at right tackle. Another name that people have really brought up was Javen James, offensive tackle transfer from Mississippi State, Chase's old stomping grounds where he graduated from. Listen, I will say this, given that Jackson Lloyd, he's a starter at left tackle. Hopefully he, keeps developing and ends up being a very solid player there that you can rely on at that position. Having Javen James listen, if you move him to right tackle, I could see a world, and he also mentioned the versatility of Michael Carroll, which we knew coming out of high school, he played guard. I think the expectation is, this is how I see it playing out. You got Jackson Lloyd, Michael Carroll at right tackle, you got Racing Delgado at center. There's a lot of competition at guard. Given how comfortable they feel with the players that are competing at guard will determine what happens at right tackle. If you don't feel comfortable about who you have to throw in there at guard, or you need, better play at that position, I think they're holding it in their back pocket that, hey, we can slide Michael Carroll at guard, and we're hoping that Javen James can be solid enough at right tackle to where, yeah, he's probably not going to be as good as a right tackle as Michael Carroll, but as long as he's good enough, we can kind of get better play at guard while also having a guy that has starting experience, and hopefully we can get him a little bit cleaned up and polished, because we talked about some of the inconsistencies that he had at State, and I could see a world where, Javen James, Michael Carroll, Racing Delgado, then you find somebody at left guard, maybe Will Sanders when he comes back, then having Jackson Lloyd. To me, I think it's starting to kind of take shape in what they want. And to Jake's point, listen, it is good that they at least kind of have an idea on who they think will be the guys, and hopefully that also leads to there being less, musical chairs at the position. So that is that. The other thing I wanted to comment on real quick was our guy Smitty, who is on the phone lines. We'll get to this, so I'm sure I'll talk to him about it when he jumps on. And we got to hit a break here in a second. But it's just funny, man. Chase, this is what I learned, man. I can sit here on this show, and people ask me these questions, and I give honest, fair answers that are, I would like to say, are very, I guess, educated. And I watch tape just like all these people that they send these clips of. I do the same thing. I do it with you guys half the time. And I'll sit there and tell people what the deal is, all honesty. And then then our listeners will send us these clips of these people say the same thing that I've been saying for months. And I'm like, why do y'all always wait till somebody else says it and then bring it back to me as if y'all didn't hear me say the last couple months? What I'm referring to was, and I'm going to butcher his last name. You guys all know him from NFL Network. I mean, I think he won like 2 Super Bowls. Mark Schlereth. I always butcher. Chase, do you have better pronunciation on the last name, man?
I think it's Mark Schlereth. You hit it right.
Schlereth. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I always butcher, but he went on the next round and he was breaking down the offensive line. I think he said he was watching tape on Ty Simpson at quarterback, but just inevitably he was watching the offensive line. And basically, to summarize his breakdown, and I can play the clip later, he basically said he couldn't figure out exactly what we, excelled in. What was our main go-to in terms of our identity in the run game, right? That's basically what he was saying. He had no clue. It was kind of all over the place. And I mentioned that over the last couple months. Like, I felt like we kind of were doing a little too much. He even said the same words I said, jack of all trades, a master of none. It just, if you watch the tape, you see that. You just do so many different things. If one thing's not working, you immediately jump to another. And I talked about how that would be difficult for an offensive line, where if you don't have your true system or your true identity, like we talked about Missouri, wide zone team, same thing like with the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I'm not saying that's the only run play you run, but you always have several things that you immediately go to that is your identity, right? Like you major in that, whether it's, true gap scheme, whether it's, zone, inside, mid zone type things, wide zone, whatever the case may be. But you have to have those that you can say, hey, like I talked about with Miami when we talked with Landon, that's our go-to. It's third and short, man. We duo is our thing. We're running duo, right? Because all our guys, like, we rep it, and we're confident. It doesn't matter who we're playing, especially at a place like Alabama where we're expected to get these top recruits and good football players. We should be able to have that. And the reason I had that vibe with the offense is because I know defensively, the same thing like Max was saying. I think he said when they won a Super Bowl, they ran like 6 plays. It was no different for our defense under Coach Saban. You guys hear me tell the story all the time. With Jeremy Pruitt, like, we used to sit in our meeting on Thursday as we prepped to go play over the weekend. That was our final day of practice. Friday was a walkthrough. And we would do what was called one reel, which is where we would put clips on the screen and we would do call outs, and we'd basically just, simulate a call. He would say a play call. We're shouting out, Ralph, Larry, check buzz. Like, we would respond to the motions and we would, adjust accordingly. And he'd always talk about, like, at the end of that, hey, tell me what you guys are feeling this week. We guys want to run. We just tell my guys up front, man, call 4 down, even rushes. That's all. We don't need all that simulated pressure, right? Call straight even rushes and let us go get it. We'll work some games in there. Let us eat. Secondary, we're good, man. Cover 4, cover 7. We'll adjust. We'll do everything. All that good stuff. Half the time, like Coach Saban, I talk about how big the playbook is. You know how many plays we ended up running in the game? We probably touched maybe like 8% of our whole playbook on a weekly basis. We didn't run that many. The playbook shrunk by the day. By the time it came game day, we were running the same stuff. You know what I mean? Because we were going to just execute that to a degree. Now, of course, we had things in our back pocket, and we would adjust. But at the end of the day, man, I think sometimes football gets overly complicated, and it's just so important to sometimes go back to the basics and really just find what you're good at and lean into that. Just like Slade said, right? We always talk about this. I mean, it's a common thing. And I just think last year you just didn't see much of that. I think it just was kind of all over the place. And to be fair, it's hard to play your best ball when so many different things are being asked you. And I think that's what helps lead to some of the inconsistencies, guys not really being on the same page, issues like that. So anyway, I just thought that was funny because Smitty tagged me in this video and I pull it up. I'm like, oh man, this would be interesting. Not like I haven't broken down the offensive line for the past 3 months myself, watching tape and saying the same things. And of course, it was one of those deals, man. Somebody literally saying the same stuff we've been saying. I'm like, oh my goodness, man. One day, I hope you guys will just trust me. That said, we got to hit a timeout to stay on schedule. When we come back, speaking of Smitty, we'll go ahead and hear from him. I do know Kane Wommack should be probably posted that interview here, but we'll go to Smitty first, man. We'll go to the people on this Free-for-All Friday. Yep, I see it right now. 45 seconds ago, Kane Wommack's press conference was posted. But you know what, man? It's a Free-for-All Friday. I got to show our listeners some love. So we'll talk to you guys first, then we'll hear from Kane Wommack, hear from some of these defensive guys, and we'll keep on rolling, breaking down practice number 4 and even more. All coming up right here on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230, WTBC.
Winter is in full.
Let's see. Negative motivation. Let me scroll back up. We got a bunch of good comments in here, man. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us, man, on this Free-for-All Friday. If you haven't, man, if you're coming from X, if you have a YouTube channel, you're fine. Listen to us on X. But if you have a YouTube channel, at some point, we do ask, just subscribe. That always helps us out, man. We're growing on our YouTube channel. That does help support the show. Again, we're trying to keep everything as free as possible. That's why we try to get good partners, people that really enjoy the show and believe in us. And the more we grow, the more that helps us do those things. It helps keep things free for you guys. So if you just don't mind, man, just always like videos, subscribe if you have a YouTube channel. That just helps keep everything free. Doesn't charge you anything. Just keeps you in the loop of everything that we got going on. So I appreciate you guys, man. BJ says, what's our weakest unit on defense? Man, it's hard to say right now because it's so early in spring. On paper, the strongest unit's the secondary, so you can scratch that one off. You look at the linebacker room, and if you want to break that in half, the outside linebacker room I feel really good about with Yanze, Justin Hill, even Zulu as a guy that can work in there some. So I would say between the linebackers and the defensive line, man, it's hard to say. I would say there's more depth at defensive line. I don't know if I would say the players are just that much better up front than we have at linebacker because, again, it's so early. But I would probably say right now on paper, it feels like linebacker is a little bit of a weaker spot defensively. Not to say it is like a weak spot, like it's not going to be a good position because I think it can end up being solid. I think Caleb Woodson has incredible athleticism. I mean, the way he flies around the football field, his stature is 6'3", 240. I mean, he's a hell of an athlete. I mean, he has a background as a DB. I totally expect him, if they can, put him some good positions, help him kind of learn, continue learning the fundamentals. Now, he's played linebacker the last several years, so it's not like he's never played it. But I think it's still new, even if you've started there for 2 years. I mean, you're talking about he played DB probably majority of his career up to that point. I just think you can sense sometimes he feels like what he is, an athlete that has been moved to linebacker. But I think the more reps he gets, the more experience he gets playing the position, the more it will become natural to him. And I think he could be a very solid player. Now there were some moments that if you do watch his tape, like, he's definitely a hell of an athlete flying around, making good plays, but then there's also some things that he's got to clean up, but I think he's going to be good. I like QB Reese. I think Luke Metz is solid. I know they like CJ Jones, Caden Jones, but we'll have to see how that position develops. I mean, I really like Xavier Griffin. I mean, I just know he's a true freshman. I know he's bulking up. I think they'll find some capacity, some type of role, even if it's maybe some third down type looks. But it's hard for me to say I see a true freshman, especially at like the middle linebacker position, playing like a bunch of meaningful reps. Not saying he can't get in the rotation, but it's just not super common to see that. But he could be an outlier, man. He definitely looks special, and he's already on the right path by putting the weight on. So, Travelpreneur, what's up? Crystal, what's going on? Our guy Dwight, what's up? Gear says there definitely would have been more competition at the positions if he hadn't have said that yesterday. But on the other hand, this will give them more continuity moving forward. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I think that's kind of how I see it as well, man. Just kind of looking at the whole picture. I think we found out why Grubb doesn't get in front of the camera a lot. Yeah, I mean, I think people understand now, like there's a little bit of a method to the madness with Coach Saban. People probably thought he was, doing the most or too strict, but I think just sometimes, and not saying what Grubb said is like the end of the world. It's not. But sometimes things that are said can just create a little bit more buzz in the media than there probably really needs or should be, I guess. So yeah, but yeah, there's a reason why sometimes assistant coaches, and I'm not saying that he's like reckless or anything, but just I think some things are probably a little bit better just maybe kept in house. I appreciate the honesty, right? I respect the honesty. I'd rather get a guy that's a straight shooter, but at the same time, I think there's some things you probably just kind of keep a little bit close to the vest. Could be motivation for other guys. I just personally, just from my perspective, I view it as the other way. I feel like it could be a demotivator. If you're a guy that came in, you're like thinking, hey, man, we got a competition at tackle, man. I'm going to be competing there. And then day 3, before you get pads on, you hear that. I feel like that could almost do the opposite. But I don't know. Maybe guys respond different. But that's just kind of how I view it. Patriotic, what's up, my man? Christian, what's up? He says, do you think the O-line coach was in on that, or that was just Grubb making that call? Listen, I'm sure they discussed. Like, I want to be clear. Like, when I say, like, it makes me wonder how much he was involved. I mean, they've sat down and discussed, like, whether it was when they were interviewing the dude when he first got the job. They're going to go over. He's going to meet with the offensive coordinator. They're going to talk about the personnel that they have. They're going to talk about the guys that they're bringing in. So, like, he's met with those guys, during the winter program. Like, you have some time that you can meet with, whether it's GAs. I mean, you get what I'm saying? So there's been some type. It's not like it's like, hey, it's only been 3 days of practice, or really 2.5 at that point, and that just was said. But when I say how much of a say, more so it's like that's the coordinator kind of laying that stamp right now. I just have a hard time believing that the new incoming position coach would feel comfortable enough to put that same type of stamp on a starter like that quickly without really getting to work with these guys. Matter of fact, I know for a fact that would never happen, right? Never. And I think that's why you hear me and a lot of other, former guys like Landon kind of have the thought process that we have, or that reaction, because it's just very, very, very uncommon for people to do that, given a guy that doesn't have the experience. Returning starter, totally different world. Redshirt freshman that played 40 snaps last year, personally, I've never heard of that. I just haven't. In all my years of playing, I've never heard of that. And welcome back into this free-for-all Friday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. We're going to hear from defensive coordinator Kane Wommack. I'm excited to hear from him. Now, I haven't even seen the tweets from the beat writers up there about anything that he has said, so I will save that. So I'm excited for that. But we're going to go to the people, man. 205-342-9904. I talk too much, and I need to hear from you guys. We got Smitty up first. Smitty, welcome in, man. Good Friday to you.
How's it going, Christian?
Man, can't complain. Blessed, brother. How's everything?
Great. Gonna hop out of town tomorrow, visit a family in Alabama. But also, I did not think that was Chase. all I got to say.
Wait, hold on.
I'll leave it.
Why are you judging my guy? Look, he's
I'm
cleaned
just
up.
saying,
He
you know
got
how
his
it is.
frames on. He looks official. Now I
I
told
know
him we got to
that.
work on the
Frames
camera. Though.
on.
We got to get him a camera a little bit better quality. But again, that's not his fault.
Adam? Adam?
Wait, no.
You keep out the camera?
No. Chase is a part of the station, so we got to contact the station up there. So we'll work on that. We'll send an email up to corporate, and we'll get them a good one. But yeah, no, go ahead, Smitty.
Yeah, because we know Adam is the Phil Knight of the Miller's Edge, you know.
He is our booster. Adam is our collective, man. Adam, shout out to Lamparello Law, Education, and Advocacy. Adam is our collective, man. He's the head booster here of the Miller's Edge. Absolutely, man. Shout out to our guy, Adam, man. Much love, much appreciation. Seriously.
But yeah, because I wasn't actually meeting the lady for dinner, so I didn't get to send him a tweet because she came by a little earlier than I expected. But here's the thing. The reason I wanted to share that with you, though, was like the part where he talked about the offensive line coach cussing out the head coach and the OC and challenging them, right? And I know you've seen that over your years where people probably went at Saban and even your time in the Panthers. And I'm thinking, that piqued my interest more than anything. Maybe you should have cussed out Ryan Grubb, because my thing is, have you ever been, my analogy on Grubb, you ever been to In-N-Out Burger?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's out west.
Well, I've
You know,
never
all
been
they
there, but
need-
I know about it. I've never been there, but I hear about it all the time.
Yeah, for you people out there who've never been, big chain out of the West Coast. Only thing on their menu is a regular hamburger, a cheeseburger, and a double cheeseburger. That's it. You know,
we got a place like that in Tuscaloosa called I think free plug here real quick, Jack Brown's. Right, I'm always saying it one time, but anyway, they got a burger thing like that where there's not many toppings at all. They just got burgers, and it's just different themed burgers, and that's it, man.
Yeah, and that's how the playbook should be on offense. This is it. Because, you know, we all played Madden and NCAA football over the years. Most of us run like the same 5 or 6 plays on the game anyway. You know, and so I think what happens is, and I like this analogy because he played against your dad, by the way. Your dad probably got some stories about him cheating. But I remember that with Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison was on the same side of the field the whole time they ran the same plays. It's about, like you said, it's execution. But we also got to remember, these are young people, 19, 20, 21 years old. Maybe we should treat them like your complicated offense like Peyton Manning. Because to me, if you're thinking about it, you're already cooked. And I think with Grubb, right? By the way, with Grubb, the way he talks, he reminds me of the guy when y'all was college buddies, and 20 years later, everybody married. He's the guy that said, "Man, you remember we was in the streets all night in the club?" That's that guy. You got to shut him up, man.
You're just staring at him, waiting for him to stop, but the sentence keeps going. You're like, all right, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough.
And now the wife's mad at you. Yeah.
That's funny, man. No, listen, to be fair, listen, I will say, I do respect the honesty. Now, I do think there's some things you just don't say a little too much here or there, but at least he's being straight up, and I know people want access, they want knowledge, they want information. So from that standpoint, I mean, hey, I do respect that. I can't help but think just from a player perspective, like if I heard Tosh Lupoy just come out like third day of spring and basically like I'm not gonna use the word glazing here, but you get what I'm saying. I mean, he's like, hey man, Tim is our guy, man. No doubt about it. I don't care about the rest of the room, man. He's the Sam. No questions asked. Yeah. So I would just be like, well, damn. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, so what am I going to try to get some reps at Jack? Do I just need to go shout out to Beat Up and go play some special teams for the rest of this year? Like, I can't help but think like that, but I don't know.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point about they may put Carroll back inside. Here's the thing, what people don't get. A lot of times in the Saban years, a lot of your tackles played guard at first. Sometimes I remember they put Leatherwood at guard because they had to get him on the field. Barry Jones played different positions. But also this, if Michael Carroll's representation is listening, Quentin Nelson was a number 5 pick overall pick in the draft, and that was one pick ahead of my Bucks, and the Bucks wanted him badly. And also, Quentin Nelson, his contract expired after this season, but it was a 4-year, $80 million deal with $60 million guaranteed. They will pay you.
Whoa! I will say this. Michael Carroll's father listens to the show. I'm assuming he did follow us the other day, and I've seen him on our. So I mean, So maybe he is listening. Shout out to Mr.
Yeah,
Carroll.
I ain't saying it a bad way. I ain't saying it in a bad way. I'm saying like,
I didn't. No, you didn't at all. No, you didn't at all. I just was saying it was funny because he matter of fact, he just followed us not long ago. So
Yeah.
shout out to him. But no, to be fair, no, you can make a lot of money at both spots. And to your point, the reason that happens is guard. And I talked about this. I think it was yesterday. Guards are covered up, right? So I mean, you got the center to your left or right, depending on depending on if you're left or right guard. You got a center next to you, and you got a tackle next to you. So you're not on an island like you are at tackle. So a lot of times that does happen. Yes, if a tackle struggles a little bit and you're trying to cover him up a little bit, see if he can. Hey, he's a strong guy. We'll put him in that guard and see how he works. You're 100% right. But here's my thing. I think this is how it plays out. It's whoever. Clearly, I think Michael Carroll is going to be the best right tackle that we have. We all know that. But I think they're probably thinking in their head, if we don't get what we need at guard, at least at some point, or if Javen James is like, man, he's playing some good football, we're really impressed with what he's doing, maybe you look at it like, all right, guard's not really what it needs to be. Let's just bump Carroll down there because we can trust Javen James to go in there as well. And that gives us the best 5. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to get, the best 5. And sometimes that does involve moving a guy who might prefer, or you would even see him at one position. It just makes a little bit more sense for this season or the personnel that you do have. So I do see that. But the good news about Ryan mentioned the Jackson Lloyd thing is at least it seems like it's pointing in the direction that they're not going to be switching around a whole bunch. So they still can. It's still really early. I want to be clear. Just because he said that about Jackson Lloyd doesn't mean if Jackson Lloyd week 1 gives up 3 or 4 sacks, best believe he's back in that competition. So we got a lot of time. So yeah.
And that's my thing. No matter what they say, you still got to stay ready because your number may get called. Injury, we're a long way away from the start of the season also. Because guess what? What if a Javen James outperforms during the course of the spring and the summer? You can't lie to the players. And so at least, hey, even then, if he's still working to get better, we'll see. But I'm not mad at anything. I just want to see how it plays out in the spring, and I'm glad we got a spring game. But, hey, Christian, you have a good one, and I will be sharing videos of me at SmackDown today. So
please, I was about to say, I thought you mentioned that was this week, man. I know you said something about going out to eat. You're doing a million different things. I can't keep up with it. But, yeah, share us some videos, man. Let us know how it is in person because I know that the internet wrestling community online, which you were like a poster child for, I see you having all types of reactions and retweets and stuff. But I want to see if the crowd reaction is different than what I see online. Because right now online, man, a lot of people are a little fed up with WWE. So let me know how the person experience goes for you tonight.
Hey, have a good weekend, brother.
Yes, sir. You too, my guy. All right, good deal. We got to hit a timeout. Stay on schedule when we come back. I know we got another phone call. We'll probably go ahead and do that. We'll take, I think, is it Mary from Atlanta? I think that's what it looks like on the queue. We'll go ahead and take another call when we come back. And then at the top of the hour, we will hear from defensive coordinator Kane Wommack and discuss some defense, man. We're talking my language right here on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230, WTBC.
From our home base in Birmingham, Alabama, we are here
treating patients from every.
Let's see. To the first scrimmage, all this is salad dressing. Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, I'll say it again. Alpha says Grub likes to yap, nothing set in stone. If Lloyd plays bad in practice and in scrimmage, he's not going to. Trust me, man. I understand. At the end of the day, I mean, it's not set in stone. My whole thing was just. It felt just a little bit, I'm not going to call it careless. I think it's a little bit too strong of a word, but a little unnecessary to go say that publicly with such conviction so early. But again, my thoughts. I'm not here to be hypercritical or criticize anybody. I'm just, hey, like I said, it's talk radio. We're just talking, man. It's all love at the end of the day. But we'll see. I haven't heard from Kane Wommack, so I don't know what he dropped. Now, maybe after that, man, maybe they pull Kane aside real quick and say, hey, man, whatever you do, shut the hell up and don't say any starters. So here's a little snippet. He mentioned Devin Tompkins having a really, really high ceiling. So they didn't name him a starter, but he said he's got a really, really high ceiling. And that's all I was saying. Like, that's the way to do it, You love Jackson Lloyd, cool. Just rave about him. But don't publicly name him a starter. don't see any other snippets, man. Maybe he didn't say anything groundbreaking because I feel like I would have seen it. That because that was how the Jackson Lloyd thing was. I refreshed X on the other side of my monitor, and all of a sudden I just saw Jackson Lloyd named starting left tackle. So Kane Wommack, man, he probably kept things a little bit closer to the vest. It looks like. Let's see. Man, I don't see anything. It should go back to how it was. Christian, you gotta be careful saying that, man. Listen, I learned my lesson. I don't even say, like, even when I compare or mention Saban stuff, there's a bunch of people that get mad and they think if you reference, let me be clear about that too. Referencing Coach Saban or like my experience under Coach Saban is not the same as comparing with the intent of, talking down on the new regime, the new staff, whatever term you want to use there. That's not what that is. When I do that, it's strictly just to give a comparison based off of my experience and maybe where my beliefs or my thought process is stemming from. I do know there's probably fans, there are fans that they're comparing every detail, every minute detail to how Coach Saban did this, that, and third. And I'm not sitting here trying to do that. I might use it as a reference, but I just don't want people to ever think I'm coming off like some salty former Saban guy it's not that. It's just, again, my personal thought was when I heard that, and I was like, oh, that's too early to name a guy starter, in my opinion. And then I also think back to what you're saying. Like, I was like, man, that's why Coach Saban was the way he was and hated depth charts, why he didn't really like freshmen or young guys speaking to the media. He didn't like many assistants speaking to the media outside of bowl time. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Doesn't mean what Grubb said or the way they do it is the worst thing or even necessarily a bad thing. It's just, it's a little bit different and maybe not the most ideal approach if you have the perspective maybe that me and some others have in terms of how it could have some negative impacts. That's all that is. That's all it is. And welcome back into this free-for-all Friday edition of the Miller's Edge, Top 100.9, 1230 WTBC. We got about 6 minutes till we get this top hour break. So let's go ahead and take Mary from Hot Atlanta. Mary, welcome in.
Hi, Christian. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing
nice. You said it's your first time calling?
Just want to say thank you for what you did back when you were playing. That really captivated my interest being a Bama fan since I was 10 years old. So just thank you for everything you do. And I love listening to you break down the game and players. So just thank you for everything that you do. Oh,
man, that's so sweet of you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And you don't ever have to thank me for playing here, man. I was thankful to have the opportunity. So I was glad Coach Saban saw something in me, and I was glad that they're just as nice as anything. Yeah. And I'm thankful for that. So thank you so much for the kind words. So you're in Atlanta, but you keep up with a lot of Alabama stuff. So I'm guessing you're a big fan.
I am. I'm actually about 20 or 25 minutes south of Atlanta. I can be at Mercedes-Benz in probably about half an hour. But the one thing that I was thinking of, and I don't have a lot of voice, so I apologize. I'll ask just one question and go. In your opinion, I know that spring practice is just starting, but as far as who is coming back on the roster, every season's different. You never know what to expect. There's a lot of growing pains, and it's kind of like a roller coaster ride. Mm-hmm. Who do you think is going to have the biggest comeback this year, or who's returning on the roster?
Man, that's a really good question. The biggest comeback for some of these guys that are returning. That's a big question. I mean, a safe pick when you talk about returners, I immediately jump to the secondary because they have the most experience. So for the biggest comeback, I think we all can kind of agree that we expect a lot out of those guys. There's a lot of talent, a lot of experience, and a lot of production that's returning. So I think that's probably too safe of an answer there. A lot of new faces at linebacker. Mm-hmm. But if I had to pick some of these young guys, maybe, I mean, I was talking about Kevin Riley yesterday. I think he's a name that not many people are mentioning right now because there's a lot of other guys that they're talking about. But I liked what I saw out of him early on last season. I think he has a chance to really, take that next step as long as he gets some opportunities. And I think he'll earn those. throughout spring. Somebody in the chat mentioned a good one. You know, you got Beeman and Latham, those two guys coming back from injury. I'm excited about Beeman. I remember a lot of people last year in that building were really high on Jeremiah Beeman, and he was pushing to play a lot to the point where we all know, you know, Tim Keenan's a really good football player, but they were going to have to figure out how Beeman wasn't going to be, not necessarily taking reps from him, but Beeman was working himself in that rotation, and he was working with the ones a lot in the spring. So those are some good ones. And last but not least, I could see Rico Scott being a guy that takes that next step at the wide receiver position. I think he could definitely be a good player as well. And Michael Carroll being a young guy returning, I like him a lot, and I think he's going to be an even better player as well.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Those are definitely people that have definitely caught my attention over the past year. I actually went to my very first 2 games last year. I was there for the home opener and for the last home game of the season. So everybody that you just mentioned definitely caught my eye. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. You know, even though, like I said, spring practice just started, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the future. And I know that, you know, they're at a great place. And even though every season is different, you go through growing pains, there's always room for improvement. So I'm looking forward to everything. And I appreciate you taking my call. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. And I'm looking forward to keep listening.
Absolutely. Well, let me tell you real quick before you get off. Well, thank you, number one, for calling. I always love getting new callers. You're great. You do really well speaking. So maybe you have a future in, I don't know, maybe sideline reporting or some type of sports reporter covering some football one day. Does that interest you at all?
I've thought about it. I've been thinking about going back to school, and if I ever did go back, the one place that I would like to call for something like that would be Alabama, because I do hope to live in Tuscaloosa one day. So hopefully within the next couple of years, maybe. Who knows what the future holds. Thank you again, Christian.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mary. You have a great weekend. Good stuff, man. That was a great call, Chase. I mean, Dwight's over here talking about, oh, man, now Christian's blushed. I ain't blushed. Listen, no, man, like, again, you guys know me. When I always sit here and talk, like, my biggest goal is, man, I want to entertain you guys, but I really want to also educate and talk the game in a way that can help people understand it better and share my experiences and really do just that, kind of like she was mentioning. And it's always cool hearing new callers like that. And hey, listen, you got to be brave to call in, right? I mean, like, I number one, give her respect for doing that. I hate public speaking, to be honest with you. I've finally now gotten out of my shell that I do it every day. But shout out to Mary in Atlanta. She did great, man. I think she could definitely, maybe she needs to start a little podcast or something. She knows what she's talking about. Good stuff, man. Always love it. We got to hit this top of the hour break. Shout out to Mary from Hot Atlanta, who we just heard from on the phone lines, and our guy Smitty, who he's attending SmackDown tonight. I'm a little jealous, Chase. Hopefully it's a good one. All right, we got to hit this top of the hour break. When we come back, we're going to take a break from the phone lines because we are going to hear from defensive coordinator Kane Wommack, see what he had to talk about. All right, defense. He's speaking our language now, so we're going to hear about it. And maybe he mentioned some guys. Maybe he talked a little bit about the scheme moving forward, maybe some adjustments, maybe some differences, what he's seen out of the new guys. I don't know. I haven't heard it. We're going to listen to it together right here when we come back on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Quick timeout. Don't go anywhere. Hour number 2, come right up.
WTBC.
Born and raised in Titletown, currently in northwest of Atlanta. I feel like we got a lot of listeners in Atlanta, in that area. I think Dwight is around there as well. Not to share all your info, Dwight, I think you've mentioned that in the chat, but I feel like we got a number. Oh yeah, you just said that. Yeah, you live about 20 minutes south. My brother literally was in Atlanta yesterday. A lot of Bama fans in Atlanta, I feel like. Got to offset some of Digger's calls with some nice calls. Absolutely, man. I like positive energy like that, especially on a good free-for-all Friday. That was nice, man. That was nice, especially when I had my dad on here yesterday. You guys, I don't know if you were tuned in, man. Going back and forth with that dude. I mean, golly. It was one of those days. So for all you guys that like that back and forth banter, man, there was plenty of that yesterday. Go check out the end of yesterday's episode. We definitely are going back and forth for a second. Let's see. Let me pull up this Kane Wommack interview. We'll watch it together. Coached in Cobb County. Kenyon Drake was in our program. Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, Drake, man, Drake's a solid dude, man. That's my guy. I was always cool with Drake, man. Great player. We all know that, but he was and still is. I run into Drake pretty often, man. I saw him not long ago. I think he was here in Tuscaloosa not long ago. So, yeah, great dude, man. Y'all raised, well, his parents definitely, but y'all helped bring up a really solid dude, man. Great character, great athlete. Like Drake a lot, man. Kenny Drake, shout out to him. Jay Clay, that's isn't that Xavier's mother? Shout out to well, I feel bad calling you Jay Clay, but I'm just going off the name. But appreciate you listening. She said listening live from Gainesville, Georgia, but born and raised in Bama. Love it, man. Yeah, we I guess we're starting to get more parents on there. It's cool, man. I know she's been very sweet interacting with our stuff online, and Michael Carroll's pops, I think, followed us. We had Parker Burrows for his dad. I think it was it like last year? I think it was. We had like learned that his dad was like some type of like special forces or something. My dad was joking around and was like, "Oh man, he's going," because I think my dad said something about the offensive line. It was just funny, but no, I think that's cool, man. I think that's cool. And good thing is, both the parents, at least I just mentioned, man, both their sons are dang good players, really, really good players. So hopefully, I feel like everything we say should be super positive, man, because they seem like really, really good players, man. Jay is fine. Okay, good. Love listening to you guys. Oh, thank you so much. All right, Miss J, we'll go with Miss J, man. I like that. See, man, this is why I like getting to know our listeners more like this. It's cool, man. I love it. I love it. I appreciate all you guys. Seriously. It's been fun. And I got some exciting stuff coming up. I mean, down the road, I'll be able to share some stuff with you guys. Really excited. But I just really appreciate all you guys. Seriously. Georgia's expensive. Yeah, definitely a little more expensive than Alabama for sure. But it's nice though. I got family in Georgia. I think like Covington area, kind of outside Atlanta too. All right, here we go. We're coming back. Let's listen to Kane Wommack, see what he had to say. And welcome back into this free-for-all Friday edition of the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. All right, we're going to talk some defense, man. I'm excited. We haven't heard from Kane Wommack in a while. Same thing with Ryan Grubb. Maybe a little quick snippet. Actually, I think he spoke outside of the Senior Bowl when he attended it with Kalen DeBoer, but outside of that, haven't heard too much from him, and this is the first time we're hearing from him this offseason. So let's see what the defensive coordinator has to say thus far. 4 practices in the spring, last one before spring break. Let's hear from Kane Wommack.
Just how big is it to get Bray, Keon, and Yonze back when they're guys that could have maybe tested NFL waters?
Well, those are the decisions, right, that are made in January that, affect us from September to the next January, hopefully. And those are some of the biggest wins in recruiting. They're also, we try to be very open with our players about what we think the best decision is for them. And we're really fortunate. We have such great connections with all NFL organizations that we get great feedback. We're able to give them accurate information, and then they make the best decision possible. But, if you look over the past here, when you've had a grouping of guys that have kind of made that decision to come back as a group together, there's typically been success to follow. And so, it certainly puts us in a great position.
What'd your off-season self-scout sort of show you about the defense?
Well, I think, for us, one of the things that we just have to continue to do is find ways to create negative plays. We just haven't, we still haven't been able to generate the pass rush for the first year and a half until towards the back end of the season, and Yonze was able to kind of give us something coming off the edge, and just that affecting the quarterback. And when we get in 2-minute situations, having to be able to have something where we can go 4-man rush, where we're not having to play man coverage and pressure out of it. Those are things that we've got to continue to work on. But to me, I think we've done some good things here, and I know our numbers and all that stuff have been pretty solid for the last 2 years. We just haven't been a dominant defense, consistently throughout the season. We've shown flashes of it, but I'd like to be more dominant up front. I think we've addressed some of those needs with the guys that we've got in the transfer portal. Really excited with some of the new defensive linemen, excited about the growth that I see from some of the guys that have been here in our program. And so we're finding creative ways to get them in the backfield a little bit more.
Do you sense that the Bandit and the Wolf positions are kind of more interchangeable than they have been in years past?
Yeah, they definitely, we started to kind of evolve to that, this past season. I mean, we moved Yanze to Wolf, Bandit. We did different things with those guys and tried to create a lot of packages. I think we do have some pretty good depth right now at those positions, and so finding creative ways to kind of get those guys matched up based off the situation or the personnel that we want on the field. Those will be things that we're going to make sure that we're exploring every avenue there.
Hey, who stood out?
I'm sorry.
Who has stood out at this?
Well, I think Yanze's continued to take that next step forward. He's carrying himself like a guy that has accomplished a lot of things this past season should, and the opportunity that he's created for himself going into this season, right? He can create a lot of value in his draft stock. And so those are things that I think he stood out. Obviously we're doing a lot with DT. Devin Tompkins is moving around for us. He can play outside, he can play inside. And he's kind of a force to be reckoned with. But I'm excited about a number of those guys. I mean, Justin Hill's taken a step forward. Cavante Henry is really starting to come on. Typically, when you come from a junior college, that's always kind of been the case. That first year, it's kind of 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But I think he's in position now to push himself, and then really fortunate to be able to get Desmond Umezulo back. To get him out of the transfer portal. That was a big win for us.
What did you guys like about Tompkins when he got in the portal? What have you sort of seen from him since then?
Well, you try to find versatility, right? Guys that can do multiple things, multiple positions, and that to me is something that he brings to the table. Just because of his athleticism and because of his size and strength, he can do things inside and outside at a pretty high level. Once we got to know him and you started doing your research from his time at USC, this guy's a captain, he's a leader, he carries himself with a professional demeanor day in and day out, and he has absolutely, shown that in the first 2 months of being here. Just the level of maturity that he brings, the work ethic, he wants to be coached, he wants to be pushed, and he has a really, really high ceiling.
What do you like about Carmelo O'Neal coming out of the portal?
Yeah, so it's funny. You pick up on things, right? We were watching Auburn, and they had played Mercer the week before, and I was like, damn, who is this long, DB that they got at Mercer, or whatever. And then Mo, we and our recruiting staff, we kind of found him through our transfer portal evaluations, and kid's great. He's hungry. He wants to take a step forward. He knows that there's some things from a fundamental standpoint that he could grow in, and he's like a sponge right now. I mean, just you teach him something, he picks up on it really fast, and you don't see a guy that we're already long in the secondary, and then all of a sudden he's a little taller than Dijon Lee, which is hard to believe, and still have corner feet, and so there's a lot of things we could do with him, but right now he's doing a really nice job on the outside. I'm excited about him.
What have you seen from Jairek and Jordan kind of getting their feet wet here?
Yeah, well, the nice thing is for us, right? We're going to make an investment in the high school, market, and we can get the best players in the country coming out of high school. The key is, right, you got to make sure you get a return on your investment, and the days of waiting around 2.5 years for those players to develop and then get on the field, that's really not feasible, right? That's not a good business structure. So for us, right, we've got to make sure we identify guys that are not only the most talented, but also have a maturity to be able to come in and do the work. Xavier Brown, Dijon Lee, Ivan Taylor, Mincy, those guys have all come in and they've been able to contribute for us in year one, and I think both those guys are very much on pace to do that.
The Husky position, obviously you've got Red coming back, but who else is sort of working in there? What do you think about that spot?
Well, it's such a versatile position. We talked about that before. You got to play man, you got to play, blitz off the edge, play the run fit, zone drop, all those things. Red is taking his game to another level right now. I mean, he's just playing. It's a very instinctive position, right? And Red has great instincts, and he has the ability to go make some of those plays in a number of ways. But Chuck McDonald is doing a really nice job at that position, and obviously can play corner, and also just has the size and frame and athleticism to play at the nickel, and then Drake Kirkpatrick is going back and forth between Rover and the Husky position. So we're in a really good place right now. It's our secondary is, one, you have these guys that are coming back, but it's also highly competitive right now. So excited to see what that competition brings out of that group.
What have you seen for the inside backers? A lot of new faces there. What do you see there?
Yeah, well, you identify guys, in the last 2 years, and we knew we were going to have this kind of void of experience that we thought was going to show up last year, and then, the ruling came out where JJ could come back. And then Deontay Lawson made the choice to come back, and we get Nakai Hill-Green out of the transfer portal. And now you got experience again. And so now all of a sudden that void is kind of hit this year. Caleb Woodson's been a really great presence in that room, just from an experience, maturity standpoint. But we knew we were building to this. And so, we tried to bring a great young class the last couple of years. And now it's time for those guys to step up and make plays, right? So they're in a good spot right now. I'm excited for them. They're deep. But I want to see kind of that grouping of guys separate themselves into the top, 4 or 5 guys that we can really enter into the season with.
Two more questions. Other times between, say, Bandit, Wolf, or Husky corner, as a coach, what's the difference between making sure a player is versatile versus making sure that they know their assignment, that they know one position fully? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. The consistency of doing your job. You got most of the guys that we do that with, that we play multiple positions, have been in this scheme for a couple of years, right? So, typically when a guy comes in as a freshman, we set him into kind of one thing, and then we build and grow from that, from there. And so, that's something that Drake Kirkpatrick, Red Morgan, Zabian can do those things. Bray Hubbard. I mean, that's, they've just been repping the same plays for 2.5 years now, right? And so it gives us a chance to be able to do those things more. But to your point, right, if a guy can't handle that, right, then we got to make sure that we settle him into one position. And there's a value in that the NFL puts on players, that we put on players. What type of position versatility do you have?
You mentioned Caleb Woodson. Just what does he provide, not only from an on-the-field standpoint, but from a leadership standpoint?
Well, he's a professional. I mean, he's very much businesslike about his business. He uses the resources of this program, which are obviously vast here. So he's up here a lot. He's around the program. You can see he's already engaging some of the younger players. He's not just here for himself. He wants to be a good teammate. He wants to be a leader. He's hungry. He asks a lot of questions. But probably the biggest thing that stands out over the first 4 days is just how hard he plays. I mean, we are stressing the effort and finish that we play with. I think, do we play hard as a defense? Yes. But there's a level of when you turn on the tape, and historically in our defensive system, this has been a staple of who we are. When you turn on the tape, watch the All-22 copy, when you turn on a nationally televised game, the effort and finish that you see is something that should stand out about our defense. And so it has been solid, but it hasn't been elite. And so we want to make sure we're doing that. Caleb is really setting the tone for those things.
Defensive coordinator Kane Wommack in his press conference following practice number 4 here during the spring. A lot of things to break down, Chase. Now I will say, I think Kane is, when it comes to the media, he knows what to say. He knows, just like we've been a solid defense, but we haven't necessarily been the most dominant defense. And he's always been like that. They forced 2 turnovers in the game. Everybody's celebrating. He's like, no, that's not good enough. So I think that's probably to be expected there. He's always looking for room to grow with his group. And I love the mentality, right? You should always be seeking to get better, because no matter how good you are or your team is, you can always find room for improvement. There's always something. And I do respect that about him. He's always trying to take that next step with his group. So we're going to take that next step. But first, we got to hit this next time out. When we come back, we'll discuss what we heard from defensive coordinator Kane Wommack. Want to get y'all's thoughts on it? You can drop it in the comment section here below, or call in 205-342-9904. There's also some defensive player interviews that we will pull up and listen to. But first, we got to break this one down, and we'll do that on the other side, right here on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. What'd you guys think of that? Anything come to y'all's mind? Let me scroll back up. I know we had a few while he was talking. Let's see. Always laugh when Wommack jumps in there in position groups and shows these young athletes technique tips. Now, I will say, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I'm like, man, he knows some cameras are rolling, so he be jumping around from drill to drill and doing a whole bunch. But nah, he's solid, man. I like him. I've been up there and chopped it up with him a number of times. Kane took teaching from Saban when he got here. I wish the war would take some teaching. In radio, we get air check to point out our crutches and weak spots. So why not? Joey, I'll be honest with you. I know it might seem like that, but to be fair, I don't think it's exactly how you're painting it. I'll just say that. Not to say it in like a rude way. I just mean like I know a lot of people think that, but I don't think it was so much. If anything, I know he actually kind of leans a little bit more into what he does. I know what you're referring to. I think like when they first got there, I think there was a couple meetings and stuff like that. But to be quite honest, I would argue it's almost kind of opposite. I think he's kind of even after those meetings prefer to kind of lean into what he and his father tend to do. So Coach hit the nail on the head. We have to be consistent. Absolutely. I mean, and that's what I always try to explain. I mean, because realistically, when people look back at last year, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the good is being overshadowed by some of the lows, right? Some of the poor moments, like the Indiana performance, SEC championship game, which is fair. I mean, those are games where you're stacked up against good competition. You're the University of Alabama. People have those expectations. Totally get it. Totally understandable. But I think when you really open things up and look at the whole picture, I mean, there was a lot to really take away, even like from a defensive perspective. Like, let's just focus on that. Ms. J is right. It's about being consistent because, hell, you can 10 out of the 12 games, you can be dominant. But if you have 2 games that are really poor showings, they always say, I mean, your brain typically focuses on the negatives a lot more than the positives. So that's what's going to come to people's mind when they think about you or your unit. And that's just the biggest thing. But the good news is they're not far off from really doing that at a very consistent rate. I mean, you look at earlier on in the year, the defense was a little inconsistent with stopping the run, but then they got a lot better as the season went on. I know their turnover rate went down, I think, slightly, but as the season went on, I feel like we started forcing more turnovers again. Remember guys really punching at the football, forcing some plays. Like LSU game, I think there's a couple of those. Nikhil Green had one, if I'm not mistaken. You had the pick 6 with Xavier Brown against Oklahoma in the playoffs. Bray Hubbard, turnover magnet, had a big turnover against Auburn. I remember that one. So really, it's got a few things to build off, and he mentioned that. I think consistent pass rush. When I assess this defense, that's what I would say is finding ways, like he mentioned, to get home with 4 guys. And that's critical. That's why I always talk about, like, you have to have players, right? I mean, scheme is one thing, and that's great, but you have to have guys that you can send and you can have confidence that they're going to get home. They're going to go affect the quarterback. That's what helped our defenses have so much success is that, it allows you to kind of take some pressure off the secondary, right? You're not forced to call those man pressures and do simulated and a lot of things, which you're going to do regardless. Those are always good. Oklahoma does a great job of running those things, but it's one thing to do them when you have the luxury of doing them when you please and just because you want to throw them in there. And it's another that to have a defense where you don't have, guys that you feel comfortable or confident that can go get after the quarterback rushing 4 without feeling that is mandatory. And I think that's what they're working towards. I mean, you have Yonze coming back. That's a big deal. Can Justin Hill take that next step? I mean, we know what he can do again, setting the edge. You bring in a guy like Zulu, Devin Tompkins. I think he's got versatility, especially from the inside. I think from a pass rushing standpoint, he should improve things. And then like Ms. J's son, Xavier Griffin. I mean, just going off this high school tape, I think he's got pass rush ability where he could probably find himself in that conversation on third downs. Kind of like what we do with Rashawn early in his years. He was just one hell of an athlete, hard to keep him off the field. You got to find a way to kind of get him out there and contribute in some way. I could definitely see something like that coming up at some point. And welcome back into this free-for-all Friday edition of the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230. WTBC just got done listening to defensive coordinator Kane Wommack address the media in his press conference post-spring practice number 4. We got Chase in his new setup, man, on the screen, man. But I feel bad. We hadn't given him the floor too much outside of a quick little, hey, hello, good to see you. Chase, man, I'm putting you on the spot, man. We just heard from Kane Wommack. Now I'll give you a chance to kind of think while I ask you the question. I ain't trying to just throw you out there in the deep end. But Kane Wommack talked about a number of things. He mentioned a number of new faces, a lot of transfers. He spoke on Devin Tompkins, really a lot of high praise for that young man transferring in from Southern Cal. Mentioned his versatility. Said he has really, really high upside. Talked about some of the guys like Red Morgan, who I love, man. I love the way he competes. A lot of people, yearning for that style of play on defense, a physical headhunter, a guy who's going to he's going to cut it loose when he's on the football field. And that is exactly what Red Morgan exemplifies. He mentioned him. He mentioned a number of guys, talked about the defense a little bit, not necessarily being that truly dominant defense consistently, right? We all know they had some really strong moments. They played a really good ball. I think top 25-ish statistically in total defense and a number of other categories, but he wants to see them take that next step. And when you turn on that tape, there's no denying it. There's no second guessing. There's not a Florida State performance or an Indiana performance where it's just like, we are playing so uncharacteristic. We're doing it day in and day out. We are playing to our standard, no matter the opponent, no matter the game, no matter the moment. You're getting what you think of Alabama football should be as a defensive unit. That said, Chase, I'll give you the floor, man. Talk to me. Anything stand out to you? Anything that really caught your attention?
Yeah, Christian. The one thing that stood out to me was just Caleb Woodson and how much praise Womack was giving. Caleb, I think the senior really has a lot to show for Alabama. I think the one thing that Womack kept saying was his effort and being a hard worker. And it's kind of weird to hear a defensive coordinator at Alabama say that because that's expected, under Saban. I feel like, if he ever had to ask you guys, like, where's the effort? That's a problem. That's expected of you guys every time you step on the field. But I'm excited. I think last year was a lot of question marks in the linebacking core. But like he said, Deontay's gone. A lot of players are gone or transferred. So it's time for players to step up. It's time to really show that A on your jersey. But I'm excited for Caleb. He's very tall. He's very linky. I think he can move for sure and affect a lot of offenses for next year. But Caleb for sure is someone I'm going to be watching, especially when stopping the run. I think that was kind of an issue last year. But yeah, I'm excited, and I think Wommack, from his journey as being the DC at Alabama, you've seen the highs and the lows. His first year, everybody was like, "You need to fire him. You don't know. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's complicated defense."
It started good. It was interesting because it started. I remember the first few games they had forced a whole bunch of turnovers and people were just raving. And then I think it kind of he slipped a little bit. And that's where I think that's part of the consistency. To your point, I think he's probably grouping the last 2 years together. And because again, if you look at it statistically, even the last 2 years, Chase, you're 100% right. I mean, they've done a lot of good, but there's also been just some moments where it's a little, up and down, which is normal. Nobody's perfect. You're expecting some of that. But I think what you're looking for is to limit that, right? You don't want your highs to be here and your lows to be here. Listen, your team, you're going to get tired. You're going to go on a stretch where you play 4 straight ranked opponents. There's going to be some dips in performances at times. We had them too. Contrary to what most people believe when talking about Coach Saban's defenses, man, we had our moments, right? I mean, I remember going on the road and playing Ole Miss, and we got down like 21-0 or 21 to something. I mean, we gave up a whole hell of a lot of points that first half, but then we always adjusted and adapted and helped kind of, erase some of that from early in the game because we were able to kind of get it together and figure it out. But no, you're right. And I think that's just the biggest thing that he's probably working on this offseason. Just like you mentioned, the pass rush, the consistency, probably stopping the run. That's a big one, consistently getting after the quarterback. But I will throw this out there, Chase. The versatility piece that he talked about, that's been a big thing for him. I mean, if you look at a lot of the guys that they recruit, a lot of the players that they brought in via the transfer portal, a lot of these guys do have position versatility, which I know a lot about because that was one thing that always stood out for me as a player when people were scouting me, both coming to college and going to the NFL. And that, number one, provides a lot of value as a player. So I think that's something that is probably really attractive to players that are getting recruited by the staff here at Alabama right now, talking about that versatility. But two, it helps him out as a coordinator. So hearing him talk about some of the, I guess, the plans that they may have with this group and some of the different things they can get to, he basically confirmed what I had been saying, that, you know, when you look at your personnel, you're always trying to see, hey, what can we do to put these guys in the best position possible? And when you go and recruit a guy like Devin Tompkins, who, you know, initially I thought when I saw his weight at 298, I was thinking, all right, they're probably going to primarily play him at 3 technique. Of course, he could end up in a 5, just like you see James Smith. If you're in an odd front, like a true odd front, you got a 505. I mean, yes, you see tackles and bigger guys playing that technique, but it sounds like they genuinely are lining him up still at banded at, you know, sub 3, like right at 300 pounds, 298 pounds. It's a little bit different. However, the Chiefs, you got Chris Jones. I think he's probably like 295. He plays in the 5 technique a lot. He's like 6'5". I think they're trying to just get different guys that can do different things. That way they're prepared for everything. You know, I gave the example earlier. You're playing a team like Missouri, a lot of wide zone, right? It's critical to set an edge. How do you stop wide zone? Well, you got to pull it up first. You got to have a strong edge set. And then they're going to be looking for the cutback lanes. And that's why everybody else, you know, getting upfield, pressing into those blocks, having those linebackers with their run fits, even the, you know, DBs and run support is critical. But that gives you that option when you go get a guy like Devin Tompkins. You know, Caleb Woodson, I don't think with him it's necessarily the versatility, like they're going to move him around. But you're talking about a guy that has a background as a DB, a heck of an athlete. So when you look at him, you're like, all right, he's 6'3", he's pushing 240 pounds now. He has a background as a DB. He's going to be comfortable in space. We know he's got great athleticism. That typically leads to a guy that you can, you know, set on pressures and put in blitz packages. You know, I think that's important. You look at Xavier Griffin, guys like that they recruited out of high school, even Jare Edwards, those two players, they're between their body types, their skill sets, and the way they play, they have a lot of position versatility as well, right? I mean, so I think this staff really likes that. It gives them a lot of options, and I think that's always helpful because you're almost ready for any moment, right, Chase? Like, depending on what team you're playing, the scheme that they run, you can kind of mix and match things. So I'm excited to kind of see how it all comes together. Now, especially with Devin Tompkins, I mean, he's kind of piquing my interest now because, you know, me, when I first saw the tape, I had concerns about, you know, his run stopping ability, right? He didn't hold up too strong at the point of attack at times when I turned on the tape. You know, the way they've talked about him, we haven't heard anything like that. It's quite the opposite. So I'm curious to see them when they start getting one of the, you know, real padded practices or even scrimmage settings and seeing how that kind of, you know, all comes to play. But the fact that they're able to also put him on the edge, I mean, you're talking about him at 298 playing the 5 technique. I mean, it should be the complete opposite. I mean, he should be dominating folks. So I just think all those things matter and all those details matter. And it's good to hear Kane Wommack already mentioning those things that, hey, we're trying to put our guys in different positions, see how we can put this guy here. You mentioned Yanze playing some bandit as well. I know Yanze, I think, had even mentioned to the staff, like maybe wanted to do some of that. He's put on some weight. That gives you the ability to get a little bit more athletic if you need that package or that situation comes up. So really good stuff, man. I thought it was really good stuff. And I think, I don't know. I'm trying to think if we missed anything else. I should have took notes while he was talking. He said a number of things, but love to shout out to Red Morgan and to hear that he's playing even higher of a level right now or going into spring, man. That's big time. Because he's like a tone setter, man. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking about getting to that point where your defense is playing a certain way, Chase. You got to have guys to help bring you there, right? It starts with somebody setting the tone, somebody having that mentality, that edge. Like, they're bringing it, not just in game day, but at practice. You know, and allegedly, I think HaHa was joking, like, all he listens to is Young Boy. I mean, you already know what kind of dude you're getting when you got somebody that only listens to Young Boy. Like, you're getting a crash out, man. Let's just call it, but you got to contain it. I call it contained crash outs. You need a couple crash outs on the team, man. Of course, I'm not a crash out like that. I'm like a sneaky crash out where, like, you would never see me crash out unless I really get to that point. Like, my teammates will joke about that. Like, I'll definitely crash out, but it's just not a Young Boy crash out. It's like, oh, damn, we weren't expecting that. Anyway, but you need some real Young Boy type crash outs. Red reminds you of that, man. And I think just hearing that, I love it, man, because I think he's a guy that can set the tone for that defense. Hopefully they got some guys up front, man. I haven't met Terrence Green or Devin Tompkins, but hopefully they got some of that type of crash out in them. James Smith was that type of crash out. Yeah, he transferred. So we need somebody up front to kind of bring that crash out mentality. So hopefully somebody steps up and does that at some point. We got to hit a timeout. We come back. We keep on rolling. Got some player interviews we'll dive into. We'll keep on discussing spring practice number 4, recapping it. And I don't know. Maybe something else will come up, Chase. It's a free-for-all Friday, man. SEC basketball tournament is going on. We might have to take a peek at that because Alabama officially will be playing Ole Miss, who defeated Georgia last night. And you are a basketball guru right now, Chase. So maybe you can drop some basketball notes and knowledge for us at some point. Right here on this free-for-all Friday edition of the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230. WTBC quick timeout. We'll be right back.
Max your tax refund.
Yeah, that Black Air Force energy. That's exactly what we're talking about, man. You need some Black Air Force energy. Dang, Landon's quick, man. Landon pulled that Jackson Lloyd tape back up and already dropped a video on it. Should we? Hold on, let's
Mi hijo también.
Lo circulo y acá está.
Llévate 4 Samsung Galaxy S26 Plus nuevos.
My bad. You guys know I speak Spanish, so that's why the ad is in Spanish. Sorry, I know that's probably confusing. I did not mean to do that. Oh wait, it's 11 minutes. I don't know if we can dive all the way into it, but let's take a sneak peek at what Landon has to say after Jackson Lloyd was named left tackle. Let's see.
Welcome into the Landon Tangwall Show, brought to you by our friends over at Hoover. So yesterday, Alabama offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb came out and named redshirt freshman offensive lineman Jackson Lloyd the starting left tackle and said, it is no competition, it is his job. And I think it was a little surprising to some people, mainly because Lloyd only played 41 snaps last year as a true freshman, and it's only day 3 of spring ball. We haven't even put on the pads all the way and really gotten to clacking. So I think you look at that and you say, okay, the good news is there is clearly a lot of confidence in Lloyd coming from his offensive coordinator, Grubb, and his offensive line coach, Adrian Clem. So I figure, hey, let's take a fine comb through these 41 snaps on film and give you guys everything you need to know about Alabama's left tackle of the future. And if you guys are enjoying all this content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's roll the tape. All right, we're going to start out with Jackson Lloyd's run blocking. Only 21 run blocking snaps, but I had a lot of highlights to choose from. And like right here, just collapses the entire line of scrimmage. This is a thing of beauty. So let's talk about what happened. So you're running quarterback read inside zone. So that's what we're blocking for. So what Lloyd is going to do is he's going to check his B gap. If there's nothing spiking, then he's going to climb up to 51. So you're going to see his eyes snap up, and he sees 51 is basically just running away from him. So he says, all right, forget 51. I'm going to turn, and I'm just going to clean up this entire pile. Boom. Tosses all of them. Do you see how he gets up under the hip? Look how 96 is floating in the air because Jackson Lloyd just comes over, tosses it, cleans up 3 defensive linemen, and look at the gap that he creates here for his quarterback to run through. I mean, great job there. And then let's just talk about acceleration. This is an athletic offensive tackle reaching the defensive tackle when he doesn't have the leverage and regains the leverage. So let's talk about this. So you're running pin and pull here. So you're getting blocked down and you're getting guys pulling around. So Lloyd knows, hey, my guard has a 2-eye, and I have to fully reach this guy and gain leverage and get on the inside of him. Watch him, how he stabs this toe. So great job with the toe strike, the shin angle. That allows him to...
Landon loves those toe strikes and shin angles, boy. He's right, though. He's 100% right. It's just funny. He loves the shin angles and toe strikes.
Accelerate in this direction, and in just 2 steps, boom, we have fully gained leverage. Now, what a lot of guys do here is they just position block and they just swing their butt in the hole, and then they'll get rolled up on and stuff. But what I love here is he gains that leverage, and then it's, hey, let's drive. Let's go strong with this left arm. You see that left arm going through, extending through right there, and let's drive him vertical upfield, and it actually creates a really nice hole for my running back to kind of cut off of right here. So that's great job. That's great acceleration. That's finishing the play. And you want to talk about moving in space? Here we go. We got a jet sweep, and he's going to get out, and he blocks 2 guys right here. This guy finished moving in space. Here we go. We got a jet sweep, and he's going to get out, and he blocks 2 guys right here. This guy finishes every single play, and he gets some help from his wide receiver. But let's talk about this. He gives a stiff arm to this defensive lineman. Now, I think this guard should be coming with him, but it doesn't matter. Lloyd gets up on the linebacker. That's his responsibility, and turns around and sees, oh, okay. I mean, he doesn't actually mean to necessarily, but he's
Wait, and Landon would know better than I would on this one. I mean, he's an offensive lineman, but
guard should be coming with him.
Oh,
but it doesn't
I
matter.
got it. He's saying the guard should have been reaching out.
Lloyd gets up on the linebacker. That's his responsibility. So I'm going to take responsibility coming with him. Do this sweep, and he's going to get out, and he blocks two guys. And he gets some help from.
Oh, he's in a 4-eye. Yeah, if he's in a 4-eye, it's that. Yeah. Yeah, if he's in a 4-eye, I would assume guard would be reaching there too. Yeah, somebody definitely messed up here. I think he's right though. It probably was that Will Sanders supposed to be reaching right there? No, you definitely can see the athleticism on display. I mean, I remember we talked about him coming out of high school. I think was it like last signing day or whenever it was. I mean, guy played basketball. I mean, really good athlete, plays hard. My biggest thing was just sometimes he struggles to really anchor down, guys that hit him with power rushes really affected him. I mean, he get walked back a lot, which again, he's a true freshman. So it's evident that the weight program will help him out tremendously. But no, I think he's got a lot of upside, a lot of potential. To be clear, it was never that like, oh man, we didn't think he should be starting at left tackle. We all assumed he'd be competing against Jamin James. A lot of people even assumed that he would end up earning the job. It just was coming out and doing so quickly. But anyway, hold on. We're going to come back here. And welcome back into this Free-for-All Friday edition of the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. We took a quick little look over at our guy Landon Tengwall's YouTube channel during that timeout because he's quick on it, man. He pulled up those clips from the 40. I guess he broke down the 41 snaps total that Jackson Lloyd played last season, and he dropped a refreshed breakdown on Jackson Lloyd. And so we were taking a look at that. I'm sure our radio listeners wouldn't mind listening to that too, Chase. I'll just go ahead and play that for us real quick while we're on the subject. I know we're talking defense. I haven't seen the defensive player interviews just yet anyways, but heck, we got this pulled up, man. It's some really interesting stuff. So let's hear Landon's updated film breakdown on Jackson Lloyd after being named left tackle.
Just 41 snaps. There is so much good here. Here we go, down block. And like I said, I know this is Eastern Illinois and whatnot, but this is still impressive for a guy that has very minimal snaps. So once again, the down blocks and the acceleration that he moves with is something I really, really like in the run game. But we're getting two hands into this, and the defensive lineman really plays into this B gap. So instead of just trying to fully reach this thing, he says, hey, if you're going to fully commit like this, I am just going to wash you all the way down. And here we go. Once again, once I get back to where I want to be, then I'm going to turn vertical and drive you. I got a couple guys on the ground. We'll go get me a little pancake. Go ahead. Just going to put my body on top of you a little bit. That's what we love to do as offensive linemen right here. All right. One more time on this acceleration right here. Watch him just, oh my God, and the running back cuts right off of him. I think this is what made this type of tape is what made Grubb say, yeah, he's the guy right now. So you're going to see him. He's going to take that first step to gain a little width to the right. Now, we already have leverage on him right now. So as soon as he sees that, hey, I already have the leverage, we're going to explode vertical. Boom, get into him. And look at the lift. Do you see the lift that he has? This is what I mean by leverage. Like, because he's so tall, it's harder. He's not underneath this guy in terms of just being lower, but his hands are underneath. His hands get under, and he lifts straight up. You see that just jacks him straight up with the left hand. And then once again, like I said, this is my favorite thing that I love. He never stops. His legs don't stop, so he drives him out of the hole. And because he continues to drive and wall this off, look at the hole that the running back gets, cutting right off of his butt. These are the blocks that you need from your left tackle. And then one more time here, just a high IQ player, understanding of what he's trying to do. We're running some pin and pull. He's blocking his man 5 yards downfield, but he knows, hey, we're pulling guys around, right? So I'm down blocking on this defensive lineman. So I don't want to go too steep. I don't want to go too over the top because then I might get beat underneath. So what I love, he steps right at him. This is perfect. He's got head right at his shoulder. He's able to get this arm in, and this is somewhere you do want a position block. I really am trying to wall him off so my guys can get around, but does a great job walling him off. And then once again, we're driving those feet, and he's making sure to keep strong right arm so he can't get over the top. All the little details, that all matters. There's a lot to like in his run game tape. I am really excited about seeing this guy after being in the weight room for another 12 months. Now, talking in terms of what he needs to work on in the run game, there was really only like 2 plays out of his 41 plays that I felt weren't great, but he still turns this one into a big positive and dumps him into the dirt. But let's talk about this. So right here, you're going to run inside zone, and we were talking about gaining leverage and then driving. So right here, he's trying to say, hey, I can't get beat inside. So he's kind of stepping down in and trying to meet this defensive end that's slanting. But when he kind of catches him right here, his hands get outside, and the DN gets into his chest. So he's able to kind of compress him back down into this run. But this is what I love right here. Resets these feet, brings his hips through, creates a power angle, starts to push straight up, and now we're driving. Now, this is my favorite thing that he does. He always finishes. He's always driving his feet. Boom, plants him in the Alabama A. So even a play that was semi-bad still turned into a positive. But right here against Georgia, only got 2 plays because they were moving Caden Proctor around. But you kind of just see it. Like, this is just being a freshman. This is climbing up, and this is, oh, crap, I'm in against Georgia. Let me get on this guy, and just kind of gets jacked up a little bit because he just was coming a little soft. I know that feeling of getting in big games, and it's like, I'm scared right now. You're not going to get this from him. He's going to be comfortable in year 2, but just kind of climbs up a little too subtly and then just places his hand on, and this is a good linebacker that goes, boom, 2 hands in, jolts him back, and then is able to make the tackle. So nothing too much that I'm worried about, but a lot of good on this guy's run game. All right, now let's talk about Lloyd in the pass protection game, and he's got some really good reps. This guy, like I said, athletic, and he can move. This is what you want out of your big tackles. When they are able to take big strides like this, that's how you know they can cover some ground. So first thing, watch how he drives off this leg, and this leg's going to get some air. You see that? We're gaining really, really good ground there. Now, right here, I like the punch. Sometimes he gets a little outside, but overall, really like the punch. This is my biggest thing. A lot of young guys, when they get to this point, they begin to drop this back foot, fully drop it like this, and then it creates a really easy edge for the defensive end to get to the quarterback. He keeps this leg strong. You see how he takes another kick and how this leg is still this position right here. He hasn't dropped it. It is still really strong, and he's creating the ability to just run him upfield. I think that's really important. A lot of young guys do not do that. They drop that back leg, and it creates a soft edge for the defensive end. You're not getting that out of Lloyd. He keeps that leg strong and continues to drive him upfield. Really, really nice rep right there. All right, next one. Here we go. Takes a couple sets, and I like this too. He has like a good tempo. Now, the last one, we saw him really get out. Now, this guy's a little bit tighter, so watch him take just a little bit quicker. Foot's in the ground, one more, and now we're in a great position to go ahead, throw our hands. Now, this is what I like. This is the reset. This is the ability to recover, which I think is one of the most important abilities for an offensive tackle. So he resets his feet in the ground. One thing I want you to watch as he's resetting. I don't love how outside this hand is. You'd like to get it a little bit more in, but watch the technique here. Watch this left arm. So he's going to go. You see how this elbow is kind of like out right here, right? He is going to then turn it in. You see how he rotates his elbow from out to in and lifts up with this elbow. That's a power angle. That's redirecting his weight up. Like, this is the high-level IQ stuff that is really impressive when I turn on his tape. He's creating a power angle now. Instead of that elbow being out, he lifts it up and in, and he's able to just completely sit down on it. Beautiful rep right there. That's how you work pass pro. And then right here, just passing off twists. This is what I mean of being smart guy, and he's able to sit down on this thing. This is a really clean rep, and he sees it right away. I love this. As soon as this defensive end shows any sign of this loop, his eyes turn right away. Boom, they snap. You see the line right on that helmet snaps back, and then he's able to take this over so his guard can get off to this. And this is what I love. He's going to go ahead and reset. He's starting to get a little bit of a bull rush right here. He's going to reset and just kind of dig those feet in. And this is what he always does. He brings his hips through. This is something Joe Thomas for the Browns did a lot of, and lifts his guy up. Whenever you're redirecting everybody's momentum and weight up, that's how you take that weight out of the bull rush. That's how you take the momentum out of the bull rush. Just lift them up in the air. Use your hips. Use your arm angle. Great rep right there. And then this last one right here, I just want to just show you the movement. You're going to get a spin back inside. Quick feet. He's able to cover guys up, get on top of them. I think another year and learning under Adrian Clem, this pass pro's only going to get better. But I mean, this is just clean. Like I said, doesn't take too many sets. Starts to see this spin move back inside. Boom. He's able to match it, run him back into his own guy. And we're just hemming this thing up right here, staying on top of him, allowing my quarterback to get the ball out. Great job right there. Now, talking about the things he needs to work on in pass pro, there was really only one bad rep. And it's just, once again, this is kind of that power that he needs to gain that I assume that he is really working on. He's definitely getting there, being in the weight room for another 12 months after this. But sometimes, and like I said, this is something that technically he can work on. His hands get a little outside, and because he's a young freshman here, gets bull rush. You see that that jolt, boom, right back, and gets tossed right back into his quarterback. So not something I'm super worried about. I'd like his hands to get a little bit more inside, but I think this is something that's going to be taken care of in the weight room, that when you're a freshman, you just don't have that lower body strength that I think he will have in year 2. I'm excited about this guy.
So there you have it. That was our guy, Landon Tengwall, who I think he's going to jump back on the show next week, and we'll ask him more about Jackson Lloyd and other thoughts, because when he came on last time, we talked so much about offensive line that we didn't even get to talk about quarterbacks, and he did a breakdown on the defense, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I want to say he's going to jump back on the show next week, but really good stuff by him, and he put that video out not long ago. So I know we heard it here, but if you guys want to go back and watch it, make sure you guys check out his stuff that he does, man. Really good work at Landon Tengwall on X, then Landon Tengwall Show on YouTube, I believe, as well. We got to hit one more timeout when we come back. We wrap things up on this free-for-all Friday. If we got any last-minute thoughts, man, hit us up. Wait, matter of fact, Chase, I think I might have forgot Ellis was on the line before we went to the Kane Wommack interview. So if Ellis is still there, we'll hear from him. If not, we'll put a bow on everything and wrap things up on this free-for-all Friday edition of the Miller's Edge. Tide 100.9, 1230, WTBC.
Whether you just found it or lived there for years,
That's why your dad lift weights. Yeah, and I think the other thing, sometimes too, man, with offensive linemen, if their feet aren't really set when that defensive end engages in that power, you can lift them off their feet. Like for me, I mean, I was 235, 240 at like my heaviest when I was playing. Naturally, I'm not just going to be able to overpower a 320-pound guy who's 80 pounds heavier than I am, sometimes 90. So, you know, as an edge guy, it's all about leverage. It's all about trying to beat them to that spot. So even though, you know, what is it called? Like in terms of the law of physics, I shouldn't be able to do that. I was able to start really getting good as a power rusher, as a counter move, because I learned, number one, I was going to threaten them with speed, what would that do? That would get them in a hurry. You saw how he was kind of, you know, patiently setting with his tempo. You know, when you got to do with speed, they can't do that. So now what happens is once you hit them with speed on the edge a few times, they're going to kick. They're getting out there quick, right? And he's going to be naturally, as they're so focused on trying to get to that spot as fast as they can, they're normally not ready to brace just yet because they're just trying to hurry up and get there. So naturally, they're going to be higher. And that's where my leverage comes in. And I used to always try to the way we coached it was getting that third foot planted in the ground. That's why I used to switch my stance up. If I knew I was going to power, I would always have, switch it up. I'd have my inside foot up because I'd go 1, 2, and on that third step, I'm planting that outside foot in, and I'm driving back into that guy. And I would always go with the long arm because I want to take him where he wants to go. I'm going to ride his momentum. So what that means is, I know, similar to that, matter of fact, I can put it back on the screen, kind of see it. And this one's not even that bad of an example. And I say bad, I'm just trying to give you guys paint a picture. But when I'm talking about their feet not being set, this guy's not really selling it upfield enough. Michael Carroll is actually a better example. It would look similar to this. Now, I don't know exactly how this rush went on that side, but that's the picture. Y'all can't even see it. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me, this picture right here where you see Michael Carroll, that's like as an edge guy, that's what you would always try to get. You see all that he created all that space by selling it upfield. He's got that outside foot planted, like I just talked about. Why is my mouse not showing up? I don't know, but you see the guy's outside foot planted in the ground, and you're driving into that guy. And he's shorter. It was probably DB or I don't know who that guy is, but so he's already got the leverage. I mean, I used to be able to lift tackles off their feet, and you know, from a law of physics standpoint, it didn't make much sense. But you're talking about speed, you know, turn into power, then leverage, man. So anyway, that's more of a lesson for defensive ends and pass rushers. But to Landon's point, getting stronger definitely helps. But even like you mentioned, a technique standpoint, because here's another example, like guy from the Patriots that they drafted out of LSU, is it Campbell? A lot of people were talking about his arm length, but a lot of it too, I think, is his footwork. Now you got to find out. If you don't have your feet in the ground, you don't have any power, right? That's why you see Michael Carroll right here. Again, I don't know exactly what happened on this rep because I was too busy paying attention to Jackson Lloyd, but you see how the guy ends up coming up underneath too? Like if I had to coach Michael Carroll up right here, you see how he's immediately kind of getting out there. Wait, hold on. What was that? Was that the same thing? I don't know. That looks like I guess that is the thing. Guy just brought him upfield, and then he ended up throwing him by. So that's not the best example. I wish I could find. Maybe I could find one of me doing it. But anyway, just important offensive linemen, man. They got to be able to have something to really sit down on and not get basically off balance like that, because that's an easy win for a defensive end in that situation. That said, overall thoughts after watching Landon's new cut up, man. No, you definitely see the potential. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. I love like what Landon's talking about with the leverage deal. Him being 6'7", it's not always going to look kind of how Jaden Roberts looks right here, where he's just playing really low. Like, yes, you definitely want him to play lower, but the fact that you see how, he's always bringing his hips, right? As a defensive guy, we always talked about it, squeezing the penny, right? And in your rear. That's where a lot of your power comes from, that position. So you always see him using really good leverage like that. And like that's a sign, a young player playing with technique like that. That is very reassuring. I'm not gonna lie. Definitely think he can be a really good football player. And I'm excited to see him grow. Hopefully he can continue to take those strides, because Lord knows we need it, man. We haven't had I guess you had Big Latham at right tackle, but we need to make our tackles great again, man. We had a run of like first rounders while I was here. And welcome back into this free-for-all Friday edition of the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Big shout out to our guy, Landon Tangwall, who I think is supposed to join us next week. Did a nice newly released breakdown on Jackson Lloyd, following the news of him earning that starting job. If you guys missed it, go watch it on his channel. Don't rewind it here, because I want to make sure he gets all love from it. It's his stuff. Landon Tangwall Show on YouTube. He does great stuff. And follow him on X. He does a lot of breakdowns and has been covering Alabama a good bit the past couple weeks. Hey, Chase, man, we only got a few minutes left in this free-for-all Friday. Now, before I give you the floor real quick, because I want you to give us like a little basketball insight, man. I want you to kind of break it down, if you don't mind, even if it's just a little breakdown. But we got automatically in the quarterfinals, right? Given where we landed in the tournament. Been waiting to hear who our opponent was going to be. We finally got word that we will be playing Ole Miss after they defeated Georgia last night. A little bit of a quote-unquote upset, I guess. I mean, I think Georgia was a higher seed in that game. All that being said, Chase, I want you to kind of give us that update. But first, I do want to give you guys, give a big shout out to our folks over at Lamparello Law. I want to make sure I get this in here. It's really important, because I know a lot of people need some representation. They're looking for somebody to take care of them in a first-class manner, make sure if they got any legal situation, whether it's an NIL deal, whether it's academic misconduct, if you're a student, whatever the case may be, they've got you covered. And of course, any criminal matters, hopefully you guys don't find yourself in that situation. But if you do, it's important that you have the right representation. And on top of that, it has to be affordable. And that's what Lamparello Law Education and Advocacy is. It's been founded by attorney and Professor Adam Lamparello, who joined us on Thursday. We talked with him yesterday. Really good stuff there. But not only do they provide that representation at amazing rates, but they also provide things like mentoring, exam and test taking preparation, application strategy, personal statements, resumes, you name it, long-term academic and professional planning. So make sure you guys check them out for all of that, plus the representation side of things. First class, genuine care and passion, but really the big thing is it's affordable, man, especially nowadays. 201-317-5115. Lamparello-law.com is the website. Check them out if you need any of those services. Again, that's Lamparello Law Education and Advocacy. All right, Chase, you got a few minutes, man. Floor is yours. Alabama taking on Ole Miss, man. What's to know, man? You think we're advancing or what, man? How's this thing go?
I think Alabama would be just fine. Alabama played really well when they had played back, I believe, in February. They took care of business on the road. Latrell Wrightsell Jr. was the player of the game. His shooting has been really efficient, something that Alabama has really been excelling this season. I think the one thing that they have to be careful of is their defense. Chris Beard, that head coach of Ole Miss, does a really good job of using players like AJ Storr. He's very good, very versatile. Malik Dia had a very, very good game, if I'm not mistaken, against Alabama. So if Alabama can really settle down a little bit, control the tempo, rely on their shooting, really, like Aiden Holloway, get him going. He's been kind of quiet as of late. Aiden Sherrill, he's really good. He's a stretch for someone that can hurt you from deep, but also in the post game, if Nate Oates is able to stretch him out a little bit, he can be good. Amari Allen, one of the best freshmen, I would say, in the SEC right now. If we can get him going, really can really stretch the floor. I think if they can get their shooting going and really just out rebound to Ole Miss. Ole Miss has a lot of good rebounding through the 4 and 5. Just really stop Ole Miss's belief that they can do this. I was shocked they beat Georgia. Georgia was a little lackluster. They were a little shocked a little bit that Ole Miss was keeping up with them. Do not give if I'm Alabama and Nate Oates and that staff, do not give any hope to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a Cinderella team. They're out of the March Madness, but they believe that they can win this. And if I'm Nate Oates, that's disrespectful. You're talking about Alabama, who's I believe 8-1 in the last 9 games. Like that's incredible for the turnaround they've had, the ups and downs and stuff like that. If I'm Alabama, I've got to keep it one way or the other, and that's it. So if you want, also lastly, LeBaron Philon, I can't forget about him. Get him going. Get him a lot of shots in the first quarter. Get them acclimated because this is their first game in the SEC tournament, and a lot of teams that start off late, have a hard time adjusting. Like I believe Florida and Kentucky are in a close game. You know, Kentucky has been going, and Florida's trying to find their footing. So don't fall in the trap. Break a sweat, really get your shooting going, and you'll be just fine. I have Alabama. I have them by 10 for sure.
By 10, I love it. And you're speaking my language, man. Never underestimate any opponent. So I love it, man. You're right. Ole Miss is a little bit of an underdog in this tournament right now. We'll see that game. I want to say it kicks off around 5:30 or so. I know it's this evening, Central Time. I think 5:30. So we'll be keeping up with that this weekend. Again, Alabama football is headed to spring break, so no more practice for the remainder of, this week, of course. No practices this weekend and none next week as those guys take a little bit of a break. But we won't. We will be live throughout the week, so we'll be excited to be talking with you guys. Then we'll recap the first week of spring ball. We'll definitely keep talking about what else we're looking forward to when the guys come back. But with that said, real quick, let me remind you about our other friends over at R&R Cigars. If you need a place this weekend to go hang out, watch the SEC tournament game, look no further than R&R Cigars, 2703 Gary Fitz Street. Make sure you guys also take advantage of that code Miller's Edge on their website, rnrcigars.com. They will take care of you, 20% off plus free shipping if your order qualifies. 160 bourbons for you to try as well. Drink responsibly. Again, that is R&R Cigars, the official cigar provider of Alabama football since 2014. That'll do it for us on this Free For All Friday right here on the Miller's Edge, Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. Look forward to seeing you guys Monday.